First of all, we're talking about having confidence as a speaker. And when you're talking about confidence, first thing is you look at the root word of confidence, which is to confide. The original explanation or definition of confide is to entrust into someone for safekeeping. So when you're having confidence in yourself, you are entrusting within yourself to be authentic in who you are and to stand forth. You're having that trust in your ability to deliver the authentic self. Now, when you start looking at making a decision or making a choice, now a choice is going to be an option, and that equals an external condition. It's basically a response to external circumstances that take place when you're making a choice. But when you make a decision, you're making a commitment that comes from an internal place. So the first thing that we would want to do, I have about actually 5 steps that I want to tell you about. And the first one is to make the decision to be confident. And you don't need a reason. You don't need anyone to speak to you or to tell you that you are amazing, to tell you that you're great. You just have to be authentically you. And when you make that decision, you are actually cutting off the other options. Like I said, the choice is an option that's based upon external circumstances. And so a lot of times the circumstances and the situations around you are not going to be conducive to you getting the best of yourself. So when you need to have the best of yourself show up and you need to show up with confidence, you need to look in your internal place and look back at the decision you made. And even as you look at decision, there is a root word of decision, which is to cut off. And that's going to be to cut off other options. So when you cut off other options, that's when the commitment comes in to that confidence of being authentically who you are. And when you are making that commitment from a place of, like, if you were looking at your children, if you had children, if you look at those children, you say, well, hey, I know my children have to eat every night, and I know that they need to be taken care of. That is a commitment. That's not something that's optional. It's not a choice that you can say, well, hey, I'll do it tomorrow, I'll do it the next day. You've made a commitment to that. So first of all, you have to make that commitment to yourself and having that trust within yourself that you're going to maintain the authenticity of yourself. The next thing you want to do, step number 2, is to be in integrity with yourself. And being in integrity is about being in alignment with who you are. Stephen Covey, he made the statement to begin with the end in mind. So when you're looking at remaining in the full alignment of your integrity, you're thinking, hey, who am I? I know that I don't need anybody's permission to be authentically who I am. I don't need anyone else to tell me that I'm amazing just as I am. But I know who I am from it because I've been me my whole life. So I can look within myself and say, hey, look, Jeff, be in alignment with who you are, what you say you are, what you feel on the inside, because no one is better at being you than you. And when you want to come forth, people can respond a whole lot better to the authenticity of who you are, as opposed to you trying to take on someone else's mantle, someone else's model of how to be. There's no better place than to look within inside. So a part of doing that is looking into yourself from an identity perspective. A lot of times we say, well, okay, what kind of things can I just do to make sure that I show up strong, that I show up confidently? But when you're looking at those things from a identity level, it's a whole totally different perspective. When you have made that internal commitment and that decision to embody confidence, even though you may not necessarily feel it initially, and most people won't. It's a process that occurs and evolves through iteration that you begin to show forth with more of that confidence that you need to come forth with. But when you take on the position of identity and you're looking at your circumstances, you're saying, hey, what can I do to be more confident? The first thing is that all thoughts are predicated upon beliefs. And those beliefs are the things that spur our actions. It spurs us to take action in what we're believing in and what those thoughts have told to us. And so if we are focused on our thoughts from a negative perspective or from our fears, we are seeing things with a, through a cloudy lens. And based upon that, we will act in a way that's not in alignment with who we actually are. So from an identity level, we're looking at our beliefs and we're saying, okay, what do I really believe in my core? I know what I've said with my mouth, but what do I believe in my core? Because what you're believing in your core is what's going to shine up, what's going to shine through. So you began to look at those things, you began to watch and observe yourself, and you began to pull up those weeds of thoughts that say that you are not who you know that you really are at your core. And as you begin to pull those weeds up and you begin to let the intentional seeds of your identity begin to shine forth and come forth inside your presentation from a confident perspective, you will begin to notice that the circumstances around you will begin to shift and they will begin to evolve into more confident situations. And as you begin to make those tiny steps, you begin to notice that you'll become more of the confident, authentic you and less of the person that was reserved or fearful. Additionally, with you're going to have competency inside of that, which is another step. You're going to look at competency. It comes with practice. It's kind of like riding a bike. The more you ride a bicycle, the more competence you have in doing so. The first time you start off, you might start off with training wheels, and you might stumble, you may wobble a little bit as you are pulling out, but eventually those training wheels they will come off. It doesn't mean you're going to ride perfect every time, but you will begin to move forward. And occasionally you might fall, you might stumble, you might hit something that caused your bike to roll over, but it's not the end of the world. You get up, you brush yourself off, and you get back to moving forward. And the quicker you can get back into it, the more strongly you can maintain the competency that you had started to develop. The third thing you want to look at is having momentum. A lot of times we get stuck in looking at what we are faced with, and we get the fear from the paralysis of analysis. We try to imagine all of the worst case scenarios, all of the circumstances that could go wrong, all the things that could happen bad to us in the process. But if we can actually get up out of ourselves and we can actually move confidently with momentum and actually taking that first step and allowing that momentum to push you on further down the road, you will actually begin to flow more freely in that confidence. As time goes on, everybody who has had a situation where they've met someone or they spoken to a small group, you might start off with a small group of friends. You might be the new person in the group and people don't really know you, but you begin to become acquainted and you begin to develop relationships with those people around you. And you begin to speak more freely and more confidently amongst them. And next thing you know, you're speaking your mind about things where normally you would just bite your tongue and you sit back and, kind of like paralyzed, looking around to see what everyone else is having to say and what the situation and circumstances are around them. But momentum, it actually brings you perspective. You cannot get new perspective without taking action. You can't, you can't move a parked car. It's like to get to a particular destination, to get to a particular destination, you have to put that car in drive and you actually have to pull out on the highway because there's certain experiences that you're going to have as you are moving forth with that particular momentum. Additionally, beyond momentum, you want to have community. You want to be around people who are confident, people who are strong. You may not be there at that particular moment, but the more you encompass yourself with other people who are on the same path, the more that leadership will begin to shine through you and the more it will stand out. As we talked about with Stephen Covey, as he said, beginning with the end in mind and being able to see that. So that's part of seeing your identity from the future place. So when you go and you look in the future at who you are and how you want to be seen and how you want to show up to the world, and you start looking at that stuff and you say, well, okay, well, in order for me to get there, you might be thinking, what can I do to get from here to where I want to be as far as that confident speaker? But when you are able to look into the future and you see that confidence, if you see yourself on stage and you're talking before hundreds of thousands of people, whoever you may be talking to, and if you can go back and reach that mindset that you would have, what way does that person think? That version of you, that future version of you, how do they operate? how do they take action? What type of mindset do they do? How do they respond as they interact with their environment? And so if you bring that particular mindset, and instead of saying, hey, I'm right here and I need to get over here, and you take that identity of it and superimpose it on your current self today, then you start embodying that mindset and you start making your decisions and your thoughts from that place, and you start moving from that place. And as you move from that place, you will begin to stride with more confidence. So as you stop looking at where you are, regardless of how small it may be, maybe in very small beginning stages, but you start looking at where you're going. And as you are looking from the beginning, but beginning with that end in mind, you will start to move as you would expect yourself to move in that future place. And that will carry you through a lot of your challenges that you would normally go to. So again, I was talking about integrity and alignment with yourself, talking about decisions, making that decision to, and not a choice, but that internal commitment, talking about the competency that comes from actually taking action and moving forward, and also having that community around you. But it all begins with that first decision where you cut off all the other options. It says, hey, I'm going to make my decision to be confident based upon these external circumstances. And I'm going to make that commitment from within myself that I'm going to practice that on a daily basis, and that I'm going to operate from that place, knowing that this is who I am. That is the power of intention, having the ability to express who you are truly within, and doing things the way you truly desire to do them. And when you are able to do things from that intentional place, you will begin to basically expose all of the levels of confidence and growth that you would need to have as a speaker. And when you start off with something where you're not confident, or you don't feel like you're confident, knowing that, hey, if I take that first step and I continue to move with momentum, and as I continue to do these things repetitively, through that competence builds, and I will be in alignment with myself. You don't have to ask for someone's permission to be authentically you. You don't have to wait for somebody to say you're amazing and that you can do it. You just have to know that who you are inside is someone worth being, and someone worth being responded to in a positive way. And as you present that forth, people will see that, and they will see that that authentic self. And that's what people respond to. When you are authentically you, that is what is going to grab the attention of the people, and will allow them to receive what you have to offer in a true and genuine way. Again, I appreciate you inviting me here and allowing me an opportunity to speak. So my name is Jeff McKoy, and for those who might be struggling and looking for how they can actually show up in a greater way in the things that they're doing, I even have a free download that you can get. You can actually get it at jeffmckoy.com. That is JEFFMCKOY.com, and /3. jeffmckoy.com/3. And at that place, you'll be able to get the 3 best kept secrets of a 6-figure coach or knowledge expert. And it's a full-blown workbook that you can actually go through, and it will actually help you in wherever you are operating in, to be able to move more authentically in it and to move more confident. And that's pretty much all I have that I want to share with us today.